was a dark and stormy night, nor'easter rolling in. It's a long 12 hours, the power's out again. I pray for inner strength and that we don't lose no lives. Just another day in the first responders' eyes. Half a cup of coffee's gone, the first run comes in. A car slid off the road, there's a family trapped within. My heart beats like a hammer, I can barely catch my breath. I'm thinking the worst and hoping for the best. Yeah, we ain't superheroes, we're just ordinary people trying to make a difference, and the first on every scene. It's a heavy, heavy burden to carry all this burden when you can't unsee the things you've seen. It keeps going on. When those sirens are gone. Now my shift is finally over, I gotta deal with what's mine and try to find a way to leave those tragedies behind. So I hug my 2 children, I kiss on my wife. Just another day in a first responder's life. Yeah, we ain't superheroes, we're just ordinary people trying to make a difference, and the first on every scene. It's a heavy, heavy burden to carry all this burden when you can't unsee the things you've seen. It keeps going on. When those sirens are gone. Flashing lights fill the air, broken bodies everywhere. Another bad dream is stealing my sleep. 'Cause we ain't superheroes, we're just ordinary people trying to make a difference, and the first on every scene. And it's a heavy, heavy burden to carry all this hurting when you can't unsee the things you've seen. It keeps going on. When those sirens are gone, it keeps going on. When those sirens are gone.
Hey, welcome to the award-winning Mad Radio Show, your first responder network with John and Sam. Welcome, Sam. How are you?
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Doing great.
What
I matched my background tonight. It's like the third flag right in the middle. I just realized that.
I'm in the VFW 5076, and like you said, I'm all blue tonight. So
it's a good
I'm
color.
in the blue room. I'm in the blue room. You
Yeah.
put us in the green room, I'm in the blue room.
There we go.
You know, it's an amazing show tonight. We have a lot to be thankful for over the last week, and we have a lot to look at in the last week. We lost two officers in a few days, just doing their job. So our prayers go out to those. Our prayers go out to the Michigan students who died in that tragic school shooting. And our prayers go out to the family and to all those who are battling right now. This is one of the reasons, and it shows through Michigan. You know, I was listening to some of the newscasts. The police were on site within 5 minutes and had from the first 911 call to when the student was apprehended was approximately 5 minutes. He still had rounds in his clip, so they figured he could have taken out another 7 to 9 people. I don't know how many rounds were in, but he could have shot another 7 to 9 people if we didn't have our brave law enforcement officers trained on the scene. And it just shows that defunding the police and trying to abolish our police departments is such a bad idea. This saved so many students by our response time, by these officers' heroic efforts in their response time. And if anybody doesn't see that, and if you want to believe these parties that want to defund, we have to stand up together and we have to fight against it.
Absolutely. We have to unite in our voices to say no more. We're done. We're done with this narrative. The narrative doesn't work. It doesn't serve the community. And that's why, we are law enforcement officers to protect and serve. And I feel like we're like we've been on a roller coaster ride a little bit. I don't know about you, John, but
yes,
from, looking at the numbers that, from Blue Help, the number of officers that we've lost to suicide this year, it's like, wait a second, it was just this number. Now I think we're up to 148.
Wow. Are we that high?
Yeah. And,
wow.
And then we have the good stories like this. And then we have the 2 officers that we lost. Wow. It is, for those of us that are still on the job, and then those of us like you and me who have retired, it doesn't really get any easier it's just navigating the hills, I'll call them, the hills, and the stress that comes with it, the heartache, the grief, making sure the families are taken care of, like, when it happens in your backyard, like it did here. And my hope for the new year, my wish for the new year is that we kind of level out that roller coaster, and that we have a lot of people that unite together, that surround our law enforcement, our entire first responder community, and really hold them up, say, hey, we need you. This can't continue to be a political battle. This has to be the battle between what is right and what is wrong. And, first responders out there every day, you guys know who you are, doing your job because you took an oath. Okay. You took the oath to protect and serve. Okay. Those of you that are still listening to the politicians and are arresting moms and dads and doing, I'm just going to call it like it is, this really stupid stuff, and deep down inside, it's stupid. You have to cut it out. You don't answer to the politicians. Right. You answer to your community, because it's your community that's going to oust the chiefs. It's going to oust those politicians when there are no police to respond.
The problem with that, Sam, and as well as I do, if we were on the job, now we have a lot of woke police chiefs. We have a lot of woke bosses out there. I pray for our men and women out there every day, because they are doing things that they do not believe in, that they do not stand by, but the order is given by a chief or a commander who has this woke ideology of how things should be and not how the law should be upheld. And they put these poor officers in such bad positions, because you could see on the face during the arrests, especially during those school board meetings, you see that these officers don't want to arrest a father who's just trying to speak his mind, or a mom who won't wear a mask. They don't want to do that, but they're being held accountable by their woke commanders. And that's a sad state of affairs when we have that.
Yeah, it is. It's changing the entire face of law enforcement, and we can certainly talk about this more with our guests.
Before you bring them on, I just want to touch on a topic, real quick. People know I just want to bring up my chance meeting the other night.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
It was probably, it was you know it, Sam. I always say paths cross for a reason. There's a higher power that says, hey, you guys have to talk, or you have to speak. So for a chance meeting, I'm not going to go into over the situation, but I met this female officer in my neighborhood, and we started talking. And when I told her I was a retired New York City detective, and I told her I lived in that town, she it kind of clicked in her head, and she's like, she said where I lived, and she remembered me, and she goes, I called you 79 times, and that was on December 27th of last year when I battled, and I almost took my life. And she was the negotiator on the team. She was the head negotiator, trying to talk me out and talk me down. And you know how communications get lost. And I finally got closure, and I think it was great with her because I gave her a hug. She was in such a bad position. I put her in a bad position. The whole situation was bad, and she tried her hardest. And I'm glad she got a little closure out of this as well. And I found out, she battles the same demons as we battle. And she was going, she was following her protocol. She was following her, her street survival tactics. I can't fault her for that. And for the longest time, for almost a year, I battled with the way the SWAT team impacted my home and the way they tactically came in. And now I found out why they did what they did. And I'm grateful. I'm so grateful that I met her because she really brought a lot of closure inside me. The stuff that was going on outside my house while I was sleeping, I was privy to that. I was, she really made me feel really good, and we made a good connection. We're going to work together in the near future. She's a wonderful woman and a wonderful officer, smart, and if I was allowed to say her name, I would, but I don't want to do that. Yeah. But I think, after what I went through, and she didn't even know, she thought when I was taken away, she thought I was going to JPS, and that's how the miscommunication was on the ground. And then when I told her I went to the county lockup and I was charged with domestic violence and the whole bit, she was like, what? She was even taken back. And then found out, what the circumstances were. So, like a 911 dispatcher, you come to the scene, you do your job, and you never really get closure. She was able to get closure with me and close out that portion of her negotiation life and that stressful life, and I was able to do the same. So God bless you out there. You know who you are if you're watching. I told her to watch the show and be part of it. So God bless you. I'm so glad we met, and looking forward to maybe having you on the show and doing great things in the mental health community with you.
Well, that's awesome. And I'm kind of glad that you surprised her by telling her exactly what happened, and her not knowing. It kind of makes you go, well, what's the communication like within the department? Because they were all there, right? And it just was,
it's they were all there, but it's and like she said, different TAC channels, different commanders, different. She's part of the negotiation team. The SWAT team's on something else. Patrols on something else. So everybody's getting different communications, and no one's really sitting in command. Plus, you had my family out there, and they were a little, they were upset and stressed, and they were screaming, and there's a lot of tension, and nobody really was able to get the full story. So when you don't have that full story as a law enforcement officer, you can't just go into a house and say, "Hey, buddy, wake up." You have to take the tactical advantage. You have to do what you have to do to be safe, make the guys outside safe. And thank God everything turned out to be okay, and everything turned out safely. But who knows? I could have been some psycho cop inside ready to take people out, so they don't know. And some family members lie. You never know. They don't know who I am. They don't know who my family members are. So I'm glad she was able to explain that to me. And I got a sense of, it really brought a lot of closure into my heart. I bless her for that.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. It's, you went through a lot afterwards. You came out the other side, you survived. And our guest tonight, he did the same thing, and he continues to really get real with talking about, what it means to be a first responder out there these days, by telling his own story, and we'll kind of get into that. But our guest tonight, he goes, one of his nicknames is Fish, but Nate Fisher joined the military in 2003 for aircraft maintenance, and he started his career working on the Predator drone. So you know what the Predator drone is, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's the only unit in the world that did this, and he was part of that. He did multiple deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan. And when he left active duty, he became a police officer in 2008. And then he joined the Air National Guard. He became it's TACP, and we'll talk about not a lot about what that means with the Air National Guard, but tactical, like really in the weeds, in it.
Right.
That's what during his time, and while as a police officer, he had struggles with his mental health. And in 2016, he attempted suicide after his partner was killed in the line of duty. And now Nate's an advocate for mental health. He tells his story to police agencies and first responder conferences. We missed him at Dr. T's first conference last time. I told him next time I'm going to be there for sure. And he started his own podcast called Surviving the Streets to help promote awareness about mental health amongst first responders. Nate Fish, welcome to Mad Radio.
Howdy. How are y'all doing? I'm good.
Doing awesome. All right, so I know we have a very diverse audience. I mentioned the Predator drone. Like everybody that was like awake and paying attention back then knows what the Predator drone is. And then just with your explain what the TACP is again.
Okay, so what a TACP is, it stands for Tactical Air Control Party. So basically they go out with Army guys and call in the close air support.
So this is, so you're in the Air Force. You're in the Air Force, and you're on the ground with the Army.
The TACPs, they're on the ground. I don't do it anymore.
Right.
But the TACPs, they're on the ground with the Army. They can get assigned to people from anywhere from infantry all the way up to the Special Forces unit. And whenever basically, when things start going bad or something like that, they get on the radio, and they're the liaison between air and ground.
Wow. So you're only the second human being that I've ever met that did that kind of job in the military, being Air Force. This other gentleman was a Marine pilot embedded on the ground in Iraq, Afghanistan, doing the same kind of thing. And let me tell you the stories that he shares. I know that you saw a lot, you did a lot, and thank you very much for your service for that. And it's funny how life kind of takes a turn. There's a ton of veterans that are now first responders.
Yes, ma'am.
We never lose our heart to serve, but I don't think any of us are really prepared. Because we frankly don't have enough education in our law enforcement community to talk about, our brain health and what continued exposure to just doing the job every day that we love, that we show up to do, what that's going to do to us. And, take us through, Nate, why did you leave the military first? And then how did you find your way into law enforcement, kind of all the way up to 2016?
Absolutely. Usually, when I speak, I usually have about an hour, so I'll make it a little bit quicker. But no, growing up, I told my family I wanted to do three things with my life. I wanted to be in the military. I wanted to be a police officer. I wanted to be an astronaut. So I got two of those. I did apply to be an astronaut. Still haven't gotten a phone call back. So I'm still waiting for NASA on that one. But yeah, I joined the military, like I said, in 2003. I was really small back then. I was same height, about 5'10", but I was about 115 pounds. So I knew I couldn't do anything really cool. So that's why I chose aircraft maintenance. And then after a while, wanting to do more just really kicks in. So I tried to, we call it cross train into another career field. I was trying to cross train into become a TAC-P. And the Air Force said, no, you're Predator. At that time, we're the only unit in the entire country that did what we did. So they wouldn't let me go. So then I looked into, at the time, the Army had a thing called blue to green. I was like, well, fine, I'll go join the Army so I could be on the ground. I don't like being backstage working on planes. I want to be up front where everything's happening. And so I talked to the Army, and they're like, "Oh, you work on aircraft. You'll just work on our aircraft." I was like, "Well, I don't want to do that." So finally, I just got out of the military. I was like, "Well, I did the military thing. Let's go do the police thing." So I lived in Vegas at the time. I packed all my stuff up, moved to Texas, and I applied to some police departments in the Dallas area, and I got hired by one.
Let me ask
And
something.
I started my, yes, sir.
Living in Vegas, why didn't you apply in Vegas? Is there a reason?
I'm from Texas.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah,
But you're living in Vegas, okay?
I'm a Texas boy. I was just
Come on
stationed in
home.
Vegas. Yeah,
Okay.
yes, sir. Yeah, Texas is the greatest nation in this country, so I had to come back.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so I joined the police department in 2008. I became a TAC-P in the Air National Guard in 2009. So I'm starting to do all my dreams, with the exception of going to outer space, pretty much all in the same time frame. So while I'm doing that, I'm on patrol. When I first became a cop, I'd gained a little weight. I was about 130 pounds at that time. So immediately I didn't work the best of areas. So I got, what's the best way to describe it? I got tested a lot on the streets. I was very small stature. I had hair at the time. And people would be like, oh, they'd see a small stature guy, real skinny. I'm sure I can get away from him. So I got tested a lot physically, many fights. And that slowly starts wearing you down mentally, to where I got to the point where I didn't want to go out in public. I didn't want to be around people, because I'd be talking to one suspect and get blindsided by another one. I've had times where I fought two people at once, where it might have only been like 10 or 15 seconds, but that's a long 15 seconds where, you're trying to hold on to your gun and fighting two people. So things slowly started wearing me down. During all this, I ended up getting married, and we had a kid. Now, I was in the Dallas area. She ended up living in the Houston area. The Dallas area made a lot more money than the Houston area. It is ridiculous how much better the officers get paid in the Dallas area. So I stayed up there in the Dallas area so I can make a living, because with our son, I didn't want him to be in daycare the first 2 years of his life. I wanted him to have his mom around. So I stayed up in the Dallas area, and in a 2-week time frame, I'd probably go home for about 2 to 3 days, just so I could stay up in the Dallas area and work. And I was working over 80 to 100 hours a week, trying to make sure I could provide and give everything that they wanted. If she wanted a new house, I went and I worked my butt off to try and get that new house for her. Things like that. Whatever you want, I'm going to try and provide. That my dad taught me how to be a great provider, because he was such a hard worker. So I was trying to do the same thing, but that slowly started having effects to where my 3 days at home, I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I wanted to sit on the couch and veg out. My wife at the time was like, "Hey, can you take out the trash?" No, I just wanted to veg out. She tried, "Hey, what's wrong?" "Nothing, I'm fine." Just leave me alone. I can't talk. I don't know how to talk. And, a lot of first responders are like that.
Right.
As well. So
coming out, let me ask something, Nate. Coming out of the military, And especially in the units that you were in, was there any transition support coming back into civilian life?
No, not at all.
No.
Not for me, because I went from active duty straight to the guard. So that was supposed to be like my transition. Usually when you get out of the military, you go through like out processing briefings and classes like that to help you try and transition to civilian life. I didn't get that since I was going straight into the guard.
Right. So you became a cop. You're still carrying everything from the military on you now. Everything from law enforcement is just being piled on top of all your military traumas with
Yes, sir.
no decompression.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Yes, sir. So getting all that, then everything with the police work is starting to pile on. Now my marriage is starting to fall apart. I'm never home. Now, whenever I tell people, about my story, I always say, there are three sides to every story, as every cop knows. There's his side, her side, and the truth is in the middle. And you're only hearing my side. My side just happens to be the truth. I mean, that's how I see it.
I agree. I didn't even hear the story,
yeah.
and I believe you.
So the marriage really started falling apart. I started getting accused of infidelity all the time. I was sleeping at work and would have to FaceTime to show that, hey, yeah, I'm at work sleeping. And so things just started piling up. I'm still in the military. I ended up leaving the TACP unit, one of my dream jobs, to try and make sure I wasn't gone so much so I can maybe be home. Because I worked nights, and for when I wasn't working as a cop, I was usually gone off to training or something with the military.
Right.
So I was never home. I was an absent father, an absent husband. Those things just really start piling on to the marriage, and things just were not going good at all with the marriage. So that started piling on. I went back to aircraft maintenance. I went back to a Predator unit here in Houston, and I started deploying a lot with them now. So what I thought would help, it didn't help. So finally, I came to do our drills, which is we do the 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year thing. So in 2014, beginning of 2015, I came to one of our drills, and my unit told me, "Hey, call your work. You're not going back." We got sent straight overseas within 5 days for a mission that we had. So I told my wife at the time, "Hey, when I come back, I'm moving to Houston. I'm going to try and fix this." So I go do my deployment, come back, find a police department here in the Houston area, and I moved down here. I want to save my marriage. So I had all this trauma from military, from police, failing marriage. Now I just took just salary-wise, $25,000 pay cut a year.
Just by going to Houston.
By going to Houston, I lost $25,000 a year just in base salary.
Wow.
That doesn't include my part-time jobs, overtime, or anything like that I was doing.
Now, being from New York, let me ask something. Houston and Dallas, I mean, I've been to both, but I don't know how the police departments work. They same amount, population? Are they? I mean, they're both big cities. You would think that there wouldn't be that much of a discrepancy in pay.
Yeah, well, they do what's called, was it 6-city or 7-city survey, to where if you're looking to give a raise to your guys, they'll look at the 6 or 7 other agencies around you that are, pretty comparable to you or whatever, and see what they're paying. And if no one really goes up, then we're like, okay, well, they're only paying their guys $50,000. We'll offer 51.
Right, and the outskirts of Houston, you have those small little towns, so they pick those small little towns. Gotcha.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
So, I wasn't HPD. I was in one of the communities outside of Houston, because it was one of the most, for this area, it was one of the higher paying ones. Even though I went from almost $80,000 to a year, just base salary. I think I was doing about 76 to 51 or 52 grand a year.
Wow.
Wow.
It's tough.
So, yeah. So when I moved down here, while I'm in their in-service academy, going through all their training, me and my spouse get into a fight, and I have the cops called on me for possible domestic abuse. They get there, they realize that nothing has happened. My spouse has just been drinking too much. I immediately get put into IA. Within, I think I was there for 2, maybe 3 weeks of working there, get put into IA. So now I have this going on. I'm like, oh crap, I'm going to lose my job because, you know, at the very beginning, you're on probation. You can get,
You're on
you
probation.
can get let go for just about anything.
They can terminate you for no reason.
Like,
They
yeah,
don't need a reason.
we're not dealing with this. We're not dealing with this. You're
Right.
gone. Luckily, they didn't do that. You know, the IA came out saying I did nothing wrong. Everything I did was correct. So I was living at my buddy's house for a little bit. He was a state trooper. He's the one that convinced me to go to the city I went to. So I was living with him for a little while, but I'm like, I grew up and it was kind of like a Leave It to Beaver type of family. So, you know, it was a very happy family, you know, never saw my parents fight, very loving family. I was like, I have to make this marriage work. So we start working on it again. I start moving back home. We get into another fight. Like, oh my goodness, cops get called again. Go through IA again. I come out completely clean. I didn't do anything wrong. But I get called into my captain's office and said, hey, you're still on probation. This happens again, we're going to let you go. I mean, he didn't say that verbatim, but that's basically what
you knew where it was
came
going
down to. Yeah, that's basically what it came down to. So I was like, okay, gotcha. So, of course, just like everyone else that doesn't realize how bad their relationship is, they still try and work on it. So I'm still trying to make it work. You know, that's how it's supposed to be. You know, when you say I do, it's supposed to be forever. So I'm trying to make it work. During all this time, an officer named Indy I can never pronounce his name, and he's my partner. Indy Ekpanya, he got assigned to my district. He's green, fresh out of FTO. My sergeant came up to me, my lieutenant came up to me, and they're like, hey, he's very green. You have the most experience on this shift. We're going to put him with you. Make sure he doesn't get hurt or do anything wrong. So yeah, man, I got this. You know, don't worry about it. I'll take him under my wing. I'll show him how I operate. Because the way I operate, not everyone needs a ticket. Not everyone needs to go to jail. People are people. They make mistakes. Sometimes just talking to me, that gets the point across, and they're not going to do it again. So that's why I was trying to, I'd go to some of his traffic stops and stuff like that and kind of help him out and things like that. And then in June of 2016, on actually June 11th of 2016, we get sent to a noise disturbance. This guy in the city, he does an Airbnb for like rappers and stuff to come out and party and throw big house parties and stuff. And the neighbors were getting tired of it. So it's one of those on a noise disturbance. It's something I always handled by myself. And, you know, there was never a need to have 2 officers or 3 officers for a noise disturbance. But I'm like, you know what? He needs some experience. So, you know, I'll have him come out. So we go there. And obviously, they don't like police. Yeah, they're disrespecting us and stuff like that. And finally, I was fed up. Like, hey, if I have to come back out here, I'm going to do something to y'all. I don't know if it's going to be a ticket or I'm just going to start taking people to jail. But something's going to happen. I don't want to come back out here. I'm like, all right, well, whatever. So we leave. And the crazy thing about that day on June 11th, that was Indy was, you know, he's my district partner. That's the first time we ever got to have lunch together and sat down and talked and got to know each other's families and stuff like that. So then on June 12th, late 0200, 0300 time, we get called back out to that same house with the noise disturbance. And again, it's something I always disregard people. It's a noise complaint. If I have to write a ticket, I can do that by myself. I don't need help. You know, at this time I had 8 years experience doing all sorts of stuff, and I was a SWAT guy at my last department as well. So I know how to take care of myself. I know how to handle situations. My verbal judo is very good at this time. So I go and I talk to. So we go to the call. I'm sitting there waiting. Another officer shows up because they know I'm about to have some fun. The city I worked in was a very slow city. I went from a 10-hour shift getting 30 to 40 calls a night to 12-hour shift getting 2 to 3 calls a night.
Wow.
Wow.
So it was very hard for me. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So and everyone knows, oh, Fish is about to have some fun. Let's go watch this. So a couple officers show up and we're like, hey, you want to go? I was like, no, I need to wait for Indy. He needs this experience. He needs to know what it's like to be completely disrespected, how to keep your cool and solve the situation. So we're sitting there waiting and it's taking him a while. It's a big district, so I'm sure he's coming from the other end. So I'm like, hey, let's start making our way up there and he'll show up any minute now. So we start walking because we park a few houses down like you're supposed to. So we start walking up to the house. Next thing I know, our radios click on. The dispatcher comes on and says that there's been a vehicle accident involving an officer, and the officer is unresponsive. They gave out the location. I knew immediately who it was. I knew it was Indy right then and there. We hop in our cars. We take off. The 2 other officers are in front of me. I completely passed them up, which you're really not supposed to do, but we're going lights and sirens. I didn't think they were driving fast enough for me. I passed them. I can't remember if I was the first or second officer on scene, but I was the first one to Indy. I ran up to the car. You can see the bright red blood coming out of the ear. So you kind of already knew right then and there how serious the trauma was. I reached in, checked a pulse, and I felt one. I get on the radio, hey, I have a pulse. And then while I'm just standing there, I realize I still feel the pulse. And I realized that I was feeling my own pulse.
Mm-hmm.
So I took a deep breath, calmed myself down, reached back in to check for a pulse. There was no pulse. I knew that he had died on impact basically just by seeing what he looked like in the vehicle. I've been on fatal accidents before. I've seen that type of injury, the type of blood coming out of the ear and stuff like that. I immediately felt guilty because as a call, I always disregard my cover on. I always took care of by myself. I went and sat down on the curb while fire got the jaws of life out to get them out of the vehicle. Life flight came in. I sat on the curb. Asked myself, what did I just do? I felt like I just killed my brother. It was my fault because he was my responsibility, and I had him come into a noise complaint. Something that I always take care of. So he gets life flighted to the hospital in downtown Houston, that's where he was pronounced dead. I go to the hospital. They have him set up in his own room. I go in there. I'm probably in there for about 10, 15 minutes. I'm apologizing to him, saying my goodbyes. I walk out and someone comes up there's a few of us there. Someone comes up to us and says, hey, we need someone to go sit with the suspect down in the ER. And no one's raising their hands. Like, I'll go. Like, all right, thanks, Fish. And I go down there and I have to watch medical personnel take care of the person that just killed my partner. And I didn't think that was going to affect me. I got so angry while I was sitting there watching them treat her. All she had was I think just a broken leg. That was it. She had a broken leg. My partner was killed. She ended up getting 33 years for intoxication manslaughter of a peace officer.
Wow.
I don't think it's enough,
Yeah.
but it is what it is. So while all this is happening, this exact same week is whenever I find out my marriage is ending. So I'm going through the death of my brother, my partner, the person I was responsible for, coming home and finding out that I no longer have a marriage. I'm losing my marriage. I'm losing my family. Something that I've given up a lot of things for to try and make it work. So one night we get into a fight, me and my wife at the time. You know, it was after my partner was killed, and I had enough. I couldn't do it anymore. My off-duty weapon was right next to me. I always carry around in the chamber. I picked it up. I looked right at her, put the gun to my head, pulled the trigger. Click. It didn't go off. I was truly done. So I did what I've always been trained: slap, rack. And I went to do another one. I can't remember if a round flew out or not. That's the only thing I really don't remember. I know I always kept a round in my chamber. So I was like, okay, I carried Glocks. I've never had an issue with my Glock either. So I slap, rack, went to do it again. She grabs the gun. I leave and go sleep in my car in a parking lot. It didn't dawn on me until I started telling my story that above me, in the room I was in, my son was asleep in the room right above. Until I started telling my story, that never really dawned on me until this past year.
Wow.
So I did that. I attempted suicide. Got the divorce. With the military, right before I left the police department, the military sent me to Sigonella, which is in Sicily. So I had a vacation. Got to go to Sicily for 4 months, doing a mission out there with the drones. I started binge drinking a lot out there on my days off. I was the lead guy for the job I had, so I always made sure my guys were good. But on my days off, I would drink. I drank heavily.
Nate, let me just rewind you real quick.
Yes, sir.
The loss to your partner, your FTO, you're the FTO, that loss. And this is 2016. Was there any, once again, we're looking at, we have no decompression from military service to first responder into the police department. Now you just lost your partner. What's the tempo of the police department with you on that loss? Like, are they offering help? Are they doing anything?
I did get my sergeant. I had a good sergeant. I did have a good sergeant because I didn't sleep for 3 days. I would make myself pass out from alcohol, but we all know that's not sleep.
Right.
So I came to work, and he's like, "When's the last time you actually slept?" I was like, "I don't remember." He's like, "Go home." He's like, "You didn't charge me any time or anything like that. I didn't have to take a vacation, sick or anything like that. He just had me go home." Then he gave me the number to Victims Advocacy to where I could go get some therapy. The only problem is the therapist that was assigned to me, she never worked with first responders. She didn't know anything about the trauma or anything like that. All she wanted to talk about was my failed marriage. But I was feeling guilty. Yeah. But I was telling her, I was like, I saw the writing on the wall about my marriage. I'm upset because I feel guilty. I just killed my partner.
Right.
Like, oh, I'll give you some medicine, but let's talk about your marriage. Just stuff about your marriage. Like, one, I'm not taking medicine because I have to tell the military everything I'm taking. And if they find out you're having a mental health issue, they can kick you out.
Right.
So I didn't want to lose that job. And I didn't want really anyone at my department to know what was going on because I was scared to lose my badge and my gun. I didn't
Now,
trust
let
my admin.
well,
You didn't? Okay. Had you seen them take somebody else's badge and gun? Like, was there a
No,
precedent?
you just one of those things where it's that old adage: if you can't
Mhm.
handle this job, if you're having troubles handling this job's not for you.
see, I was just going to say the same thing Sam said. Uh, it's that stigma that it's bred into us that, hey, if I say something, my gun, my shield, everything's going, my identity's going, I'm done.
Exactly.
I don't agree on one spot where you turn around and said your boss, and he may be a great boss, but if I was a boss and what just happened to you, and I knew you didn't sleep for 3 days, I'm not telling you to go home and go to sleep.
Mhm.
You know what? I'm taking you by
Absolutely.
the hand and saying, listen, we're going to talk to somebody right now. I'm putting you on my couch. I'm putting you under observation. I'm not letting you go home and go to sleep.
Yeah.
I'm not, it just, that's right there. And this is where we see a lot of the suicides happen. Is we're missing the red flags and the cries for help in our officers. It's not everybody
Yep.
turns around and says, hey, I'm going to commit suicide, or
Exactly.
it's the non-sleeping, it's the loss in production at work, it's certain things. And Sam, we had that same when we were doing that workshop way back when we asked that certain sheriff, well, if one of your guys is having a mental breakdown, what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to go to his house. I'm going to take all his guns out of his house. I'm going to raid his house. What are you going to do? Why are you going to do that? Wait, we got to learn how to treat officers in distress. We have to, our bosses, our sergeants, our captains have to learn how to teach or be taught how to handle a person, one of our officers in distress.
Exactly.
And
Like when I go talk to police departments and I go to the conferences like Dr. T's conference and speak, I always tell everyone's like, hey, so what can we do to kind of fix this? I was like, it doesn't matter how much change y'all do with the guys with the boots on the ground. Nothing's really going to take effect until you do change in the administration.
Right.
Because you can have everyone that wants to help everybody, but if they don't trust our administration to have them back, nothing's going to get done. So I truly believe that the change has to start from the top and work its way down.
Now, did you see change in your department?
Did you see any change?
I left.
Did you have a debrief at all when your partner was killed? Did they bring in? No, really?
They had a chaplain come in, but I was so out of it.
Right.
There's a lot of those days I can't remember.
Yeah, and that's the culture
drinking.
that we need to change, is that you're sitting there, there's a chaplain, you guys are supposed to be talking, who's watching? Like, somebody would have seen how you were, and it's just like, well, do I say something? Well, I'll let somebody else say something, and it's like you've got
and I had people reach out to me, but I did the usual thing. I'm good.
I'm fine. I'm good.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
But it's one of those where I think if someone would have came out and said, no, seriously, how are you? I probably would have broken down.
I'm gonna go one better. You said you were 8 years in the job, right?
Yes, sir.
Right. You were 8 years in the job. You had SWAT the whole bit. If you had 8 years prior experience of being conditioned to talk instead of being conditioned to say I'm fine and suck it up, you know what? You would have turned around if somebody asked you that question, says, hey, how you doing? You would have said, like me and Sam knows if I'm battling, or if she's battling, she asks me, hey, I'm not going to say I'm fine because I know she knows I'm going to be lying. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're retired and we have that camaraderie.
He said retired, not the other part.
But we have to bring that same aspect onto the job where, we got to turn around and be able to say, you know what, I'm not fine, and be good with that. Make that the norm. Make that the norm.
Exactly.
Not that I'm fine, I'm okay, I'll get over it. We got to make it the norm that says we can communicate.
The stigma of mental health in the first responder community it's got to go. It's got to get changed. And that's one thing I'm trying to do with like my podcast. I have other officers come
Yeah, let's
on.
talk about
I just
that.
had
Yep.
I just had a firefighter come on, and we talk about our struggles.
Yep.
You know, and I try to keep it as raw as possible. I told him the only way I'm going to edit is if you don't want to say your name and you accidentally say it, and if you say where you work. Because I do talk about admin, and I don't want their admin coming back at them.
Right.
So we don't say where they work or who they are.
Well,
so you retired. So this happened in 2016.
Yes.
You
and I left the police department in 2017.
Okay, so you recognize that it was absolutely time to move on.
I did it because of the divorce. I needed money.
Okay.
So I left my other dream job to pay for the debt and everything I had gotten into, and became a military contractor from the divorce.
Okay. All right.
So I gave up everything for that marriage.
So now you're into doing military contracting. So it's like we're bouncing right back into the fire without really addressing all of the previous traumas. And still,
Correct.
Did you have closure at all from losing your partner?
I never got closure. Got closure. Every year I say on it, I'm going to go to his burial site. I get ready to go, and I end up at a bar. I can't make that leap. That's the one thing I haven't been able to do.
Have you had it?
Yeah.
Have you had anybody go with you?
I'll say yes. No. I'm holding that space for you for yeah.
1 year I did reach out to the guys that were working that night. I said, hey, are y'all doing something? They're like, yeah, we are. We'll be there at this time. I was like, okay. And I couldn't make that drive. It was too hard for me. I couldn't make the drive. It was too hard. Oh. So it's I think I'm working on that part for me, but now I'm just concentrating on.
Well, I just met you, Nate, right?
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna make a commitment to you right now. June 12th, right?
Yes, sir.
I will go with you, and I promise you I will go with you. You just let me know what time. I promise you, June 12th, I'll be there with you by your side. I'll drive if I have to, but I'll get you closure, and I'll be by your side the whole time.
Yes, sir.
All right?
I appreciate that. Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is the network. You know, we talk about what that blue line means, and what it means to be on it, and what it means to be off it. And you know, think of the blue line as a path. And while we always strive to do our best when it comes to up here, we can find ourselves off it real quick. And the stuff that you're doing with the podcast, which folks, I'm going to put this up here right now. If you want to listen to an incredible podcast, it's called Surviving the Streets. I've listened to a couple of episodes now, and it is some of it's not easy to listen to, just frankly, because it is so real. But that's the beauty of it, is that you hear about the pain, you hear about the hardship, you hear about the traumas, but you also hear about all of the good stuff that comes with it. And things might get broken and messy and all screwed up in the beginning, but what comes out of it is amazing at the end. And the fact that you've been able, Nate, I just want to commend you to channel everything that you've been through, to continue to serve, to shed light and make this real. Because like I put in the promo for the show, we're human. We're not robots. We are not a light switch of emotion, even though sometimes we have to be. It's like, hey, when you're showing up for a scene, you're 100% on, but it's in the quiet times, and you don't just flip that switch. And exactly. And it's the all of your guests, just their willingness to come on and just tell it like it is. For anybody that's not a first responder, I mean, first of all, first responders, go, flock, go, because we all get this. It's amazing. If you're not a first responder and you're listening, go to the podcast and listen to it so you can understand what it really means to be a first responder, especially now. Exactly. And Nate, you realized after you left the department, you know, you're a contractor, you meet somebody really special, you're introduced to horses.
Yes. Yeah, through my fiance.
Yeah, things really changed for you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because at that time when I was a contractor, I was drinking a lot. Like I couldn't drink while I was overseas at work, but when I was come home, I was spending about $300 a day at the bar drinking. Wow. And I had met my fiance and stuff, and she started having me come out to the barn. And I started out by just shoveling horse crap, and then starting to learn how to be with the horses, grooming the horses, and I realized horses pick up what you're putting off. And if you don't have control of yourself, they're not going to let you touch you. So I had to learn how to control myself and what I was putting out there, which became very therapeutic to where I can help take care of these horses. And then that's how I got in touch with Dr. T and R Watch, was when I started to come out wanting to tell my story and how horses helped me, because they have the equine therapy at R Watch. And that's how I got in touch with Dr. T, and started trying to work as much with her as I possibly can, like go and speak at her conferences and stuff like that. So horses helped me. Now I have my dog Deeks, and he's my best friend, other than my best friend that let me use his house right now. I always call him, he's the worst best friend, but he's still my best friend. But yeah, I mean, animals helped me out tremendously, and it might not be for everybody, but it is an avenue that's out there.
I'll tell you, R Watch did the same for me, Nate. Although it was only for about 20 minutes, it was probably the first time in my life that I was out of a hypervigilant state when I was in the round with the horse. Mm-hmm. It was a moment in time that I probably, I've never felt before. The connection, I guess, I don't know, Sam, what would you call it? It was like a sudden surge of cortisol.
It was just like this giant aha moment that you got.
Exactly.
Because I was where we were there filming it and watching it. This aha moment where it's like, you know, how you open a safe and all the cylinders click, and then the horse just was there.
It was
like,
exactly.
Horse. Yep. I mean, it was like,
so why go tell my story? I tell everyone that my fiance, she saved my life. But she introduced me to the horses and stuff, and she saved my life, because I was leading down that road again. I was drinking more than I had ever drank before in my life. I was going back down that road, and she saved my life. So I'm definitely not letting her go.
Amen to that. Amen to that. It is. It is. You have so much more that you want to do, because, you know, the mental health, the stigma, we talked about smashing that. We've got to have leadership from the top down to change the culture. And you've got a really cool idea for how you want to help first responders.
What we're trying to do now, when I say we, me and Sharon, she has my back. That's my fiance's name. We're both veterans, and no matter where we go in this country, we can tap into the veteran community. You know, there's always a veteran community no matter where we go. So I'm like, you know what? We need a first responder community. So I'm trying to develop a first responder community. I started a Facebook group called FRT. Doesn't stand for fart. It's FRT, First Responders of Texas.
I'm gonna put that up there.
And we're actually hosting our very first social event for just first responders at a cigar shop here in Sugar Land, Texas, just outside of Houston. where the first 20 first responders that come, I'm going to buy, which Surviving the Streets is going to buy their cigar. And we're just coming just to come together as a community, shoot the shit, whatever it is. If we end up talking about something hardcore, then we talk about something hardcore. If not, we're just having a good time. Cops making fun of firefighters, firefighters making fun of cops. I wanted to build a community to where if someone is retired in Washington and moves to Texas, he can be like, well, I want to tap in. I still feel, the law enforcement or the firefighter stuff still in me. They can tap into a community and start hanging out with like-minded individuals that have done nothing but serve their entire life. And that might make it easier to where, hey, I'm having a hard time. I don't want to talk to my department, but I know John over here in this department. I'll talk to him. Me and him,
Right.
We hang out. We've had cigars together. We've gone to baseball games together, just to kind of build that community to have, just something stronger for the first responders to have.
Gives them that comfort level.
Yes, sir. Exactly.
Gives them that comfort level.
So
Yeah.
we're trying to build a community. We're starting it here in Texas. I hope it spreads like wildfire and just goes all over to where, if I end up moving to Kentucky or something, wherever they have horses at, I can tap into a first responder community there,
Right.
and be around other brothers and sisters.
Well,
So what
it's
is it?
so needed.
So it'll be FRKY.
Yeah, exactly.
That's John's comedian self coming out there. He will not name it that. But wow, we have Nate. I know I gave you like, hey, this is the Mad Radio timeline of how things go, and we're well past
We kind
the
of
time
went over that one.
But these
it.
conversations are too important. Guys, please check out. So it's First Responders of Texas. You can type that in, or FRT. I have it up there on the screen right now. And again, I just want to put up the Surviving the Streets. That is Nate's podcast. Nate, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, they're hearing your story, that it's really resonating with them. Maybe they're not on Facebook, or maybe they are. How are you? You're on social media, right?
Yes, I'm on social media. Surviving the Streets has a Facebook page on Facebook, and of course, the FRT Facebook group, and on Instagram, I'm on there with Surviving the Streets with Nate. And also, if you want to see more pictures of my dog, I have my personal is at Nate the Bald.
The bald.
Pretty simple. The Bald. I'm Nate and I'm bald. So, you can reach out to me on that one as well. And I have a Gmail account, survivingthestreetswithnate@gmail.com. You can shoot me an email.
Awesome.
There you go.
Awesome.
Well, thank you for putting that out there for people to reach out, because we always say it takes so much courage to ask for help. It's in fact probably the most courageous thing you'll ever do in your life, because it's frankly easier to put on our badges and our guns and go out and battle and take that trauma and just file it.
Exactly.
We always try to make more room till there isn't room. So we have wonderful people like Nate here that are they're out there telling their stories. This is the real face of being a first responder. And there's actually absolutely no shame in asking for help. You can do it outside the department. Go look up FRT on Facebook, First Responders of Texas. If you're in and around the Houston area, go hang out, go have a cigar or not have a cigar, whatever it is. But go be with your brothers and sisters, because that just never goes away. That camaraderie, that wanting to be a part of that, blue line again. So stay on that path. And Nate, I always ask at the end, just if you could say anything to the first responders out there that are listening, what would that be?
Well, I tell everyone, I felt like I was alone when I was going through my stuff, all my issues. You're not alone. No matter what you're going through, you're not alone. There's so many of us out there that are a phone call away, an email away, a Facebook message away. You're not alone. And what you're going through, someone has gone through something similar and come out of it even stronger. So whatever you're going through, you're going to make it through it. You're not alone. You'll probably come out stronger than what you were before.
Yep.
That is awesome.
God
Well,
bless.
thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much, Nate, again, for coming on, for telling your story. I mean, we just, John and I know it's like, we're not going to interrupt because everybody needed to really hear this.
Yep.
And again, thank you so much, folks. Reach out to Nate, get on, listen to his podcast, get on the Facebook page, because you are not alone. Let's all stay connected. Let's widen that safety net, because frankly, we need it. We've all been through whatever our shit is, and that's what actually ties us together. And we need to realize that that's the strength of our community. This stuff that we survived out on the streets.
Exactly.
Yep. And Nate, you just met me. You don't know me, but you're in my calendar for June 12th.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
You know what? I'm there if you need me. I promise you. I'm there for your support.
Thank you,
So
sir.
let's see if get some closure this year, maybe.
Absolutely.
And if not this year,
I'm looking forward.
the year after. But
Yes, sir.
that's in the calendar.
Yes, sir.
All
All
right.
right, Nate. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. We'll be in touch.
Thanks, Nate.
Absolutely. Thank y'all.
Take
All
care.
right. Take care. Have a good night.
Bye. You know, Sam,
Wow.
it's you know, when we look at all these people that we have on our show, time in and time out, and I'm talking about even the psychologists and the counselors that we have on, we're seeing a common denominator in all our first responders, and it pains me to know that we're so close to solving this. And if more departments just implement better mental health, we would save so many people. Just last week, we were at 131 first responder suicides. Now you just told me we're at like 148 from Blue Help.
Yeah.
In less than a week, in a little bit more than a week, we're up over 10 suicides. That's somebody's got to. The system's broken. We got to fix it.
Yeah, and I think with stories like with what Nate just told, the more, yes, I'm confirming it's 147.
147. And last week it was 131.
Yeah. So the stories that Nate put out there, not only his own, so the more that he speaks, but the more he has 1 year with his podcast. So everybody coming on the podcast, like it says, is complete anonymity. But it's like the elephant in the room is now being seen. You can talk about it. It's real. Let's stop trying to shove an elephant under the rug because you're still going to see the outline. We know it's there. Hello. So
yeah,
because it's out there, what we just went through in Rowlett, even though, thank you, Chief Godfrey, with Guy Helms' suicide being declared line of duty death. Huge step in the right direction. I talked to officers from another department. They were like, well, we weren't sure. We wanted to, we weren't sure how we wanted to represent. And I was like, it was a line of duty death. What is to think about? We have got to remove this bizarre, I don't even know what to call it, because you had a chief that did the right thing and you have people from other departments not showing up because they knew it was a suicide. It doesn't matter. We've got to support. We've got to keep expanding the safety net. We've got to keep walking that blue line that we all took the oath to protect and serve. And we've got to protect and serve ourselves. But we've also got to show the support for one another. And the more that we can do that, whether it's from top down or bottom up, because if we have it from the bottom up, because we just en masse more and more and more officers are talking about the change that's needed and the pressure that we put on. We're not letting our foot off the gas, folks.
Right.
We're not. This is our mission to change, to smash this stigma. We have to be done with it so that we don't have stories. I mean, it gave me the chills when Nate said he picked up the gun, pressed the trigger, click, and his son is upstairs above him. That is divine providence. That is otherworldly. I had mine. You had yours, John. Jeff had his. Doug had it. I mean, over and over and over again, we were put here. We went through the stuff that we went through in order to make a big difference in this world and to help the first responder community make the change, to help themselves deal with the stress, but also to show the command. This is not something to be afraid to talk about. You talk about in the public eye how you want your departments to function 100%. Who wants a shitty department? No chief that we've ever spoken to. Great. Brain health budget. Let's get it done. And if we have to go to the state of Texas, down to Austin to get it done,
We'll go.
have every department have a brain health budget. We will be there, and I know we won't be there by ourselves.
Nope, and we'll be loud.
I know we won't. Yeah, we've got hashtags smash the stigma. We're always here. Someone's always listening. This is amazing. I gave a shout out to Dr. T. Love this. I mean, it is critical information, and it's being real.
Yep.
It's being real. And that's what we need. So to all our first responders out there, we love you. We pray for you every single day. Thank you for doing what you do. Thank you for going out every day and putting yourselves in harm's way for us. And to our active duty overseas, thank you for keeping us safe here at home. To all of our veterans, thank you for your service. Thank you for setting the tone of what it means to be free in America, so that John and I can continue to do this kind of show, so Nate can continue to do his incredible podcast. And John, take us home.
Just to all of the students and the families in Michigan, once again, we're going to sleep tonight with you in our prayers. We will pray for you to get through this hard time. And if you can be anything in this world, please be kind.
Amen to that. And one thing, John, we forgot to mention is our programming note. So Mad Radio is changing our programming. We will now be coming to you the first and the third Wednesday of every month. So tune in on the, I got to go back to my calendar. I believe, yes, tune in. The 15th, we'll be back with a guest that I believe was on Nate's podcast, if I'm not mistaken. So it's another amazing story that you don't want to miss. Again, thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Nate. God bless everybody.
I'm heading back to the other side of town.
There you go. Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Good night.